Hi there, it's Natasha, and today I have a video for you featuring mostly this stamp set from AliExpress. I'm going to use several of the stamps from this one, and I'm going to use the You're the Best sentiment. This is a Kraft card card base that I'm going to work with today, and then I just have a piece of Kraft cardstock that I'm going to cut down to 4 by 5 1/4. I'm aiming to create a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 standard US A2 size card. So you can see that this little bit that's going to be on top is just going to create a slight border around the outside. So I have cut out some circles using a stitched circle die. I've cut out 2 of the larger ones and 2 smaller ones. I think these circle dies are from My Favorite Things. But you can use whatever circle dies you have available, or you could use little square dies or triangles, whatever you have in your stash to use. So I am going to start off by creating the background on the card panel. I'll put these circles aside. I'm just going to see how I want to lay them out, and I decide to use 3 and not go ahead and use that last large circle. So this is some watermark resist ink. This is usually used for embossing. However, you can use it to stamp, and it creates a sort of tone on tone effect. It dries just ever so slightly darker than what you're using, so it works really well on Kraft cardstock to create a slightly darker stamping image. I've got some acrylic blocks, and I've got one little vine there. I'm using a leaf, one of the little flowers, and then I think there might be a swirly pattern that I'm going to use. So just getting all my blocks sorted, and then you can see here that I'm dipping it in. It's quite light and it dries nice and even. I'm going to zoom in a second and show you a little bit closer up the mark that it leaves. I don't want the background to be too distracting, just adding some interest really, and some continuity between the background and the little circles that I'm going to have. So there's no rhyme or reason to my pattern. I'm just stamping away, making sure I've got a little bit of everything and trying to leave room to have them evenly spread. So I'm trying not to have 2 of the same next to each other. So just stamping away, and it's not perfect. I've accidentally overlapped a little bit in some places, but as I said, it is just a background, and the focal point is on the little circles, so you hardly notice in the end. So this part doesn't have to be perfect as such. So from here, I'm just going to get out the You're the Best sentiment that comes with this stamp set, and I'm going to stamp it on the largest circle that's going to be in the center, and I'm going to stamp it using some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. Then I'm going to move on to the 2 smaller circles, and I was deciding whether I should do this in the embossing ink or in the black ink, but I think the circles stand out on the card front, so I've chosen to stamp them in the black ink, but I am going to do the same sort of random pattern that is on the background. So I just chose some of the inks, and I didn't want it to look too thought out, so I was doing my best to make it random. So I'm just stamping a leaf, a couple of flowers, and trying to make sure that you can see what they are from that little piece of cardstock. So just filling up all the little spaces with stamps. So I've got one done, and then I'm just adding a teeny tiny little flower, and then moving on to my second one. I actually stamped another one. This one here is the one that I don't end up using. You can see it behind the piece of paper there now because I didn't end up liking it. So I cut another one from that circle in the top right hand corner that used to be the large circle, and I like this one a bit better. And I've also included that big swirl that's on the block, the acrylic block to the right. Then when I was looking at this swirl, I thought it would be nice to add a little bit of interest to the center circle too. So originally I was just going to stamp all around the outside different parts of the swirl, and that's why I just did a random bit there. And then I was like, actually I'll just use the whole swirl to create, to sort of frame up the sentiment. So I just leave it at that. Next up in the card, I am going to add some string, some twine around the middle of the card. So this twine again is just some, I think it's from a $2 shop that I have here in New Zealand. We have these $2 shops. It's just a cheap and cheerful shop, and this is quite thick twine, and I used it to make some Christmas decorations at the end of last year, so I had it left over. So I'm just going to add 3 little winds around, and I fuss with it forever, and then use some tape to tape it onto the back. I'm putting on a decent amount of tape just because I want it to stay how it is, I guess. I don't want it to move around if you mail the card. And I'm just using some, this is double-sided adhesive, but this is just the closest tape that I had on my table. So you can use any adhesive or tape to adhere it down. So what I do need to be mindful of is that now I've got this very thick twine around the middle of my card, I need to add some foam tape to the back here, and I'm just going to speed this up because adding adhesive always takes forever. So I'm excuse me, I'm adding it in just all around that twine so that that evens up the back and it doesn't end up being lumpy or having parts that are unsupported on the card. So taking off all of the release paper, and then I'll pop it down. You can see the back looks terrible and very messy, but nobody will see that part. So from here, I'm also going to have to do the same thing with the circles that are going to sit on the front, bearing in mind that the twine that's going through is going to mean that I need to work around that. So I've got a couple of little foam squares at the top and a couple at the bottom of my center circle, and it will lay nice and flat once I've got it on here. So just taking off the release paper and then making sure that my foam squares go either side of the twine. And I'm just eyeballing it to make sure that it's as much in the center as I can get it. So I've done the same here with the little ones. These ones won't be over the twine, so I can cover the back, the whole back in foam. So I'm going to put one up in the top right hand corner, and if I just sit them on lightly, it gives me a moment to readjust how I want them and make sure that they're all squared up. So just adjusting it to how I want it, and that looks pretty good to me, as even as I'm going to get it, and then press them down. That's my card for today, nice and simple. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with the Kraft cardstock today. I hope you join me next time. Thanks so much. See you later. Bye.